computer graphics imagery has become an essential part of modern storytelling. And one of the most amazing works was just recently done, the Oscar-winning Life of Pi. And this is a story, I'm sure all of you guys have seen it. The Life of Pi is actually an amazing yet simple story. I mean, this kid is trapped on this boat, and he's floating around the ocean. There are 4 animals to start with. There's the hyena, there's the zebra, there's the orangutan, and a tiger, and they represent something. And then shortly after, all that's left is him and a tiger. The tiger is in the movie for nearly 2 hours. 80% of the shots of that tiger was not real. It was computer generated. The tiger is an actor, is a character in this movie. Now, first of all, he's a brand new actor. If you were to tell this young man or tell his parents that he's about to be on a boat with a tiger, and it's a small boat at that, and they're going to act together, and the tiger is going to eat 3 other animals but spare him, somehow I don't think that's going to work out. And so this whole thing was completely digitally made. It was CGI, visual effects, done by a really fantastic group of guys, Rhythm and Hues. They did amazing work, groundbreaking work. Now this tiger, the statistics are just really, really amazing. Think about, they animated this entire tiger. And this tiger was articulating the paws, the jaws, the eyes, the face. And imagine what a tiger is. A tiger is muscle with a bag of skin over it, right? That's what a tiger is. And so, yet when you watch this movie, you would have sworn it's a real tiger. They simulated the muscle, they simulated the bag of skin, and the fur on top of it. They simulated this tiger in water, swimming with the water. The fur is interacting with the water, the physics of the water. Imagine the simulation what we're doing now. It's submerged with a bunch of fur. The fur that's underwater is interacting with the water. The fur that's on top of the water is heavy and sticks to the skin. All of it is rendered beautifully. All of it's rendered beautifully. 10 million hairs on a tiger. 600 artists worked on a tiger. The computation of each frame was 30 hours. Several hundred million hours of CPU cycles were dedicated to the rendering of this movie. Several hundred million hours of CPU time was dedicated to the rendering of this movie. This is groundbreaking work, but obviously arduous. It was expensive, it was arduous, it was incredibly beautiful in the end, and it's very unlikely that some random person is going to be able to do that yet again. Well, yet this particular medium is incredibly wonderful for storytelling. And so what I thought I would do, I would introduce a couple of my friends, welcome a couple of my friends, to talk about the challenges of being a director in a movie like this. Talk about the challenges of the technical aspects of creating a movie like this. I'd like to introduce from OTOY. Where's Jules? I saw him earlier. Hey, Jules, come up here. Jules Urbach, he is the CEO of OTOY. He's the founder of OTOY. And Josh Trank, you guys might have seen this movie lately, Chronicle. Good to see you. Hey, Josh. Hey. Josh is a writer and a director. He's been in the movie industry a long time. He's the only person in this room that you can find an entry under imdb.com.
I don't think that's true. I think you could put up an IMDb. You could be
anybody can?
Yeah.
Okay. This afternoon I will be on there.
I did that at one point. I didn't
well,
have any credits, I just
you looked much more attractive on IMDb, much more Hollywood.
Thank you.
Much more Hollywood. And so Josh worked on Chronicle. He's working on a new movie. The burden is great. The responsibility immense. He's working on a new movie. He's going to save the Fantastic Four. I guess none of you guys saw the first one.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that.
The Fantastic Four. You guys, Stretch, Rock, Flame? No? Okay.
2015. Can't wait. Woo! Yeah!
Yeah.
Thanks.
Scientists. Lots of scientists.
No, it's okay. I like the, kind of like stifled, like, we don't.
And okay, so first let's start with Josh. Okay, so tell us about the process of creating a movie like The Life of Pi. Tell us about that. I mean, the whole previs part. I mean, tell me about what is it like to create, because Chronicles has a lot of visual effects.
A lot of visual effects. It's a lot of waiting around and chain smoking and nail biting and eating a lot of food and meditating. I don't meditate, so it's just a lot of chain smoking mainly.
So it's just like being a CEO, really.
Yeah, probably. I mean, because you have to wait for a lot of stuff to kind of happen. The amount of work that you actually do is just sort of like spaced out in between, you know, like, okay, you go in, you give a bunch of very specific notes on some things. And
now you tell them the story.
Yes.
You tell them the story, you previs, which is using computer graphics to do storyboarding. You previs your story. I mean, you were telling me that when you... I
prevised out most of the sequences of Chronicle were prevised in Maya. And worked with a very small group of guys, just 3 guys. And it was probably about a 5-week process. And it sort of looked like Nintendo 64 graphics, right? And, when you're done with that, you're trying to figure out a couple of things. You're trying to figure out, how you're going to shoot the movie. It's a way to communicate, what you want to the, cinematographer and everybody else without having to, because it was a pretty, it was like the 3rd act of the movie. There's this multi-camera, multi-perspective, big action sequence that was sort of like it could have been filmed any kind of way. But I needed it to be very, very specific. So having that, reference was great. However, you also use that to bid those shots out to the visual effects houses. And when they're looking at something that isn't...
I see, no kidding. So you take the previs and you bid that out.
What do you think of this? How much is it going to cost? So...
And they come back and they say something like $100 million or something like that.
Yeah, because it's not precise stuff. There's a lot of different things that enter into it. There's like atmosphere, there's lighting, things that have to do with the environment, and what you're looking at isn't going to be the final result.
And it's really going from stick figure, effectively, right? Stick figuring and hand,
64,
right? To now a piece of work that articulates, that expresses, that has deep feeling, that somehow connects and draws you into the movie.
Which costs a lot.
That costs a lot of money. And so you guys go into an effects house. And now, that process, in the case of Life of Pi, was several years.
Yes.
And it was on and on and on and on and on.
Yes.
Now you're going to do the same for Fantastic Four, and we're hoping that it doesn't take several years. And so we're going to need you to have some amazing
I'm not allowed to take several years.
groundbreaking new technology to solve this. Now, Josh, Jules, you and I have been in the computer graphics industry a long time, and, you've been working on rendering technology and cloud rendering technology for quite a long time. And you're, in fact, arguably a pioneer in this area. And we used to watch your early works. Now, tell us, how did your ideas of rendering come about, and why did you think about the cloud, and where do you want to take this whole thing now?
Well, like Josh, I love films, and I've looked at the rendering problem for the better part of a decade, as you know. I started off trying to get the very first GPUs with compute capabilities to do ray tracing, and we did some very early tests on transformers. But really, around 2010, that's when the GPUs that you guys were putting out started to become very interesting for films. And we started to see the light where, well, wait a second, we can take these GPUs and we can render exactly the same quality as what you can get on a CPU. But it can be 40 times faster, 100 times faster on one GPU. And with that speed capability, we started meeting with directors, and ultimately, what we knew was that GPUs also scale very well. So unlike a CPU where you have to have huge farms to get hundreds of CPUs together, we can actually just build one rack and put 160 GPUs and have more rendering power than has ever been put in one view frame ever. And that is sort of the goal that we've been working towards. And with the cloud and with streaming, we can deliver that anywhere in the world. So if you're an artist working remotely, you can actually access this unlimited rendering power. And making that real has been very challenging. And with your guys' help, we've been building towards that goal. So I think we're there. I think today we're here.
Now, of course, the technology of making things go fast isn't just about making things go fast. When you can do something so quickly, instead of a director saying to your artist, hey, I want to see that scene slightly different, animated slightly different, and they go away for 2 weeks.
Well, the
And
thing
they
is, you have the process is it's really broken up into 2 stages for any visual effects shot, or a lot of shots that are going to be purely CG. You have your animation process, and that's just going to be like wireframes. It's sort of like, just like drawing with a pencil kind of stuff, right? And then you have to lock all that stuff down before you can actually move on to like adding in the textures and like coloring everything in, et cetera, doing all the lighting. So once you've locked your animation, let's say you go into textures and all that, and then you start to see things in the animation that you suddenly don't like because you're not seeing the entire picture yet. You're like, I want to change that one thing, and then they go like, well, you can't, because it took 2-3 months to do that, and now if we go back, it's going to take another month, and then you've just wasted a lot of money and a lot of time. So it's really, you have to, it's all approximating. It's hard.
And so the ability to do it more quickly results in allow you, when things are done cheaply, it allows you to do it more.
Yeah.
And so you could try more ideas, and what's going to come out of it, of course, is that we're going to be able to create better movies.
Right.
Now you know, Josh, being smart is important, but having good timing is the most important thing in life.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you're making Fantastic Four at the perfect time. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I think Jules has a surprise that he would like to show us.
So
Jules?
today we're announcing OctaneRender for the cloud. There's really been nothing like it. There's never been a GPU in the cloud rendering service. I mean, there really hasn't been many GPU renderers. I mean, Octane was the first, and we've been testing it on people's GPUs right on their own machines. But with Octane Cloud Render, we can have hundreds of GPUs in the cloud. In fact, we already do. We can have thousands, and we can provide that on demand to anyone.
We're about to show you guys something, and I don't want to set the expectation too high. However, what you're looking at here is an experience that comes all the way up from Southern California, from Hollywood, one of the most hostile environments for computing. And there's a rack of grid appliances all working together to create these amazing new shots. And one we're going to show it to you. And the graphics is computed remotely, and it comes back all the way up here. And the way that, of course, the work that he's doing here, imagine, this is no different than a visual effects supervisor taking his laptop to Josh's office and say, hey, dude, right, that idea, we got it all put together.
Yep.
What do you think about it?
Yep. So I figured for a good demo to show, be a commercial we actually worked on. We were working on commercials for Hasbro and Paramount for the Transformers film a few years back.
This is Transformer?
Yeah, and this is Starscream. And this is the actual original clip that we made. And I remember, this process. I mean, we had so little time, and we didn't have the GPU renderers we have today, so we really could only render it in standard definition. That's why it's so small. We had to have artists that would actually do a lot of compositing work later. And rendering is like launching a rocket. Once you render, it's like you just go away and you have to come back later and hope everything works. Really what we're working towards is making that process go away so that rendering doesn't become a step or a process. It is just integrated with the experience of designing and creating something. And as Josh was saying, when you're doing pre-visualization, like for this clip, you're going to end up working with something that looks a lot like this, right? A sketch, wireframe. And when you want to see what what an asset looks like, if you're looking at animation or blocking things out, you're going to just get this very limited amount of detail. And this is typically what every single film in previs has had up until now.
Well, which, by the way, when you're in post-production, you're actually cutting the story together and you're mixing it in with a bunch of live shots. You'll cut from live footage of just like us running from something, and then you cut to a wireframe thing, and it's really hard to be able to know if it's working right. So there's a lot of theoretical stuff going on.
So I want to point out something here. If you look here in this viewport, and by the way, this entire window is coming from Los Angeles, and it's running at 60 frames a second on this tiny little computer. So this really is available to anyone, anytime. This particular window has 112 GPUs connected to it. Now, you don't need all those GPUs at once. In fact, we can service many customers. It's completely elastic. But when you want to render that frame, you should take, as Jen-Hsun was saying.
Now, by the way, the fact that all of this graphics is done in Southern California, and we're looking at it like this,
that's pretty cool.
Is already pretty cool.
Yep. And
Exactly.
So we're going to show what 112 GPUs can do. Now, the thing to remember is, path tracing, which is a special type of ray tracing, typically not used in films. I mean, it's used for for simulations and scientific studies of glass and diamonds and things like that because it's so precise. Too expensive for films because it takes too long. So I'm going to turn on path tracing, and we're going to see what 112 GPUs can render. It's done. That was fast. It used to take 30 hours.
Is that amazing, guys?
Now it's 1 second. It's like the Genesis device.
Now, compare this to before.
Yeah.
I mean, a special effects house would do this over the course, go off and render this for a few hours
now,
for that.
Yeah, man. You remember how we're looking at the model in wireframe mode? Well, now I can just, inside of 3D Studio Max, right? This is an Autodesk project. I can actually now move the scene around, and it's rendering it while I'm moving it around. Film quality, final film quality, in a split second.
High dynamic range lighting. Look at all the shadows. They're all nice and soft.
Yep.
Can you change the lighting?
Sure. So we can look at the scene from different perspectives. The lighting is something that is completely controllable. So if I want to set the sun and see how the scene looks at nighttime, not a problem. It's all there. It's all completely controllable. And it's done from the tools that artists already work with, like 3D Studio Max. This is integrated in every single Autodesk product. We've got integration in other tools like Lightwave 3D, Blender. So our target is every single 3D app at the end of this year is going to have this capability.
Can you make the sun come up like from right on the arm?
Let's see. Let me find out where the sun went. Let me see if I can put it in view. So let's see. Here's the sun. And let me see if I can grab it. And we can move it around and see how it
like
looks.
sunset.
Yeah.
Can you do it sunset and then have it come under the arm like that? Or like a.
Is that just incredible, you guys? Look at that.
Yeah. Dusk, dawn, magic hour. It's all available. And when it comes to moving the camera around, I mean that's where it gets really interesting. It's like a video game, but you're rendering now at full quality. It's amazing the capability that you have. I mean, it's this fast to update the frame and to render it.
Can I drive it?
You want to drive it? Just drag it.
Look at this. Now directors are going to want to control their own computers. Josh, you're not even going to understand it when the visual effects house tells you it's going to take 2 weeks to do that.
I'm going to say I'll do it right now. Sorry.
Yeah, you're not even going to understand it.
Yeah, everybody's getting mad at me right now too.
You're under the ground.
I know if this was a scene, it would be cut. So, don't worry, everybody. I'm not gonna.
This is one scene that's gonna get on the editor's floor.
That's right.
Right here.
Exactly.
We're not shipping this one.
Oh, there we go. Something interesting. Wait, no.
Dude, I'm starting to get worried about Fantastic Four.
Yeah, me too. Well, anyway, I'm not going to be doing that. We're going to hire a lot of people. They're all going to do that. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not allowed.
All right. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you, Jen-Hsun.
Congratulations. Well, that's the OctaneRender, the world's first photorealistic, interactive. It's practically real time. Well, it is real time. Interactive renderer on the cloud. And so you would download a little tiny app. You would download a little tiny app from OTOY, and on any computer you could be doing that. And so it's not just about making it possible for directors now to be able to create and tell their story much more interactively. The weight and the cost and the time that it would take to ask for just a small change has been reduced dramatically. And hopefully, as a result, we're going to get better movies. We're going to get better movies, story told better. But this is a powerful capability for a bunch of other people who simply couldn't have access to this level of computing until now. Now it's available as a service. It's no different than Shazam now. It's a service, and you would download it. And if you have the chops to go and tell a story and capture it in 3D, gosh, you can now do it very easily. So you're asking yourself at this point, how much does this thing cost? It replaces supercomputers. It replaces workstations, a whole bunch of them. It puts it on everybody's desktop. It's available anywhere. It's so easy to access. You're asking yourself, how much does it cost? Well, ladies and gentlemen, GRID VCA starts an amazing price of $24,900. $24,900 for a half base pack. That's 8 GPUs total. And then you have a maximum configuration of at $39,900, and that's 16 GPUs with 32 threads and the full 384 gigabytes of system memory. That also gives you the ability to put licenses on everybody's desk, so anybody can have access to it, so long as there are 16 concurrent users. And obviously, not everybody's using the computer at the same time, all the time. The floating license, the unlimited use license, is $4,800 per year for software license. The GRID VCA is now in beta. We have many of our VAR partners in the audience. I'm excited to introduce you to this brand new, first of its kind computing appliance. And we're looking forward to partnering with you to bring this capability to the world.